Good evening. Let's share this screen. Hey Jane, how are you? Share screen.
Good, how are you? Missed
Not
you
too
last
bad.
week.
I know, I ended up with a horrible cough, which is still lingering a bit. Yeah, Monday was really my height of it, which is a shame because I always like doing, like it's easy. It's 2 hours, jump on with you guys. So yeah, I didn't have much of a voice, which was a bit of a shame, but
Oh, Shelley was great, but we did miss you as well.
last one, isn't it, this week?
It's crazy. Yeah, like
Mm.
Christmas has crept up yet again.
It
Like,
definitely
yeah,
feels
yeah,
today. It's like,
I know, and like everything's just happening too quick.
that's it. You can all see my screen, I'm hoping. Great. All right, admit, still a couple people rolling in at the moment. Yeah, I feel like this is the point in work where you're like, oh, leave it for next year, do it later. Nothing's gonna really get done. So, yeah. Right. It's everyone been boiling hot. It's been awful, hasn't it? Bit scary, actually, this time of year. All right, well, I'll kick off. You can see my screen. All right, it's up. Great. Okay, last one. Here we go. I'll acknowledge the Gumbaynggirr people. I'm on beautiful Gumbaynggirr country here in Coffs. And extending that respect to past, present, and future elders and any of the lands that you're all on too. So this last module, I feel like will be a little bit of a quicker class, because we're much smaller tonight too. But it's kind of a culmination of all of the things that we've already looked at. One of the key things that Maddie really prioritizes is giving you access to resources, making sure you know where to go in future. So we'll have a look at some of that, but it's really looking at how we can use that, how we can look at the resources and the curriculum that we've kind of worked with, and pairing that with a really high expectation teaching model to make sure that, we're obviously addressing the needs of Indigenous students, as well. So we'll look at that in a little bit more depth. There's some really cool sites that we'll look through, that have those different resources to make sure that you tab and keep in the background, and just a couple of different tools that Maddie's put together for you to take into the future as well. Another one coming in the room. There we go. Okay, so I'm sure this is going to differ wherever you are. This is the Koori curriculum, so again, it's different and more specific to New South Wales. Admit again. Um, but these just have a couple of the different key dates to be aware of. Obviously, the big ones that we always look at are reconciliation. Sorry, there's so many people joining the room. We always look at reconciliation week and reconciliation day and NAIDOC week. I think when we put all of our eggs in that basket, just those events, we're really missing out on the whole scope of the experience of how we can, ensure we're addressing the correct cultural competency throughout the year too. So these are just a couple of key dates to have a little bit of an idea on. Mabo Day falls very closely to my birthday, so I always remember that one. That's in June. But again, there's just a couple of different things both within Australia, and you've got like the International Day of Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the Apology Day speech when that was, so just some things to be aware of. January 26th, that's obviously quite a contentious day at the moment, having, I guess, appreciation and awareness of what that might mean for different communities as well. Um, and then again, looking in more locally, what this can look like for your community and what those particular days might be. They might have ceremonial days. Looking at those calendars is really cool, this cyclical and seasonal calendars. But yeah, just something else to have a look at beyond NAIDOC week within your schools too. Hello for all that have just joined. Would love to see your beautiful faces. I won't see them again after tonight, which is a bit of a shame. So jump off on, put your camera on if you can. Okay, so just looking at this, Hello, Cora. Nice to see you. I'll bring this up here. So this is a really cool, another thing coming from the AIS for Barra. How are you going? A report. It's a little bit dated now. It's 2019. I know that they're doing some work on updating this. Again, a super duper long report, but we'll just look at, I guess, a key chunk out of it and what this looks like. But just showing you all the different information and resources and things that are out there for you to be looking at as well. Is this the page one? Yes. Okay. So that in particular looks at that kind of impact and outcome on student learning and student engagement too. So again, if you're looking at resources for your next assessment in finding any stats, any hard data, that's a really good place to start this pilot project, looking at that improvement of outcomes. So it's a good place to go for. But essentially, this is a framework that they ran, looking at creating an inclusive environment that reflects and respects Indigenous cultures, which shows that it leads to an increased student engagement, higher attendance, and improved academic performance. So again, we looked 2 weeks back at how engaging community essentially can, I guess, end up in these really positive outcomes as well, engagement, self-esteem, things like that. Oops. So again, this is just a really good report for you to use and find information out of to show those positive impacts of strategic teaching in terms of Indigenous engagement. Again, this is the same report. Is it going to take me? It just takes me to the same spot. So this is another report that we're looking at. I will have. You can have a little play on this. Sorry, everyone. Here's the resource that it's coming from. I'll give you a minute or so just to have a scroll through, look at what the examples are. Again, as it was a pilot project, it was run in different school systems, and you can see how the schools have done different things and then how those outcomes were different, but all showed kind of improvements. Mainly Sydney-based, I think they all were. So have a little look around that. We probably won't do this question because you've got to dive more into the whole document, which I think is kind of, it can be better if we're face to face. Yeah, have that up your sleeve. In the break, if you want to have more of a look at that, and then we can discuss it. But yeah, definitely one for you to have a kind of overview of. Okay, so we kind of haven't talked clearly on strategies too much, other than the 8 ways and how you can kind of incorporate that into the classroom. We haven't looked too much at particular strategies. So these are some really cool, sorry, I'll bring this up. These are some cool evidence-based strategies that have been used in improving that kind of teacher practical support, making sure teachers are feeling supported, but making sure that you've working towards those really positive things like student engagement, academic performance, school attendance, engagement of communities, all the good stuff. And this is a really cool thing that helps you do so. So again, it's just a list. We've looked at it a little bit, but not too much in depth. This is a great place to come to look at different strategies that you could be using within the classroom to make sure that you're hitting those key points as well. So I'll pop this in our chat too. I really should be aware of what I Googled before because I can see all my internet history coming up. And I was like, why was I looking at the population of Newcastle? Anyway, if you have a look at around this for maybe a minute or so, dive into this one, I'll be silent, and then we'll come back and just in this main group, because it's a bit smaller, have a little bit of a discussion around some of the strategies that you could use or maybe you've already seen in the classroom setting, and bounce off each other. So a minute or so, just having a little look and think about that. Beautiful. I'll just keep this up so you can have a look. On this, does anyone have any that jumped out at them or any experience kind of using those evidence-based strategies to support this space?
I like the clear classroom expectations. So I think sometimes we can assume they know what's expected and they don't.
Mm.
So being really, really clear and just I think somewhere else as well it said like um short, clear instructions that are easy
Yeah.
to follow.
Yeah, beautiful. I think in high school, that first point is particularly important because they're going to go from, woodwork and tech where it's really hands-on, high energy, noisy, and then into an English classroom. And so, other than primary school where kind of students have the same teacher all day, when you're chopping and changing, it's really important to set those expectations when they come into your physical space. For one. Kirsty?
They're giving the opportunities for the repetition and revision. I think we try to move through everything so quick that we just do that assumption that they'll know, but not necessarily do. So is slowing things down and giving them the time to go, okay, we've finished the lesson now. Where can we give them that opportunity to revise or repeat what they've learnt, but in another aspect as well?
Big time. Having the time to pause and reinforce what's gone in so it makes sure it doesn't come out straight away. Great.
I think sometimes there's a little bit of an idealistic viewpoint when it comes to like these when they're like, oh, I have a quiet space. That's all well and good, but depending on the school environment that you're in, you may or may not have that
The
capacity.
ability.
Even just when they're like, oh, can you have bean bags and things like that? You may or may not have the budget. Like I work in a low socioeconomic school. Even just as the teacher A being like, oh, I think this student would benefit from this, or because they need some kind of movement or stimulation. And just even being able to practically get that over the line for that student is really hard.
Yeah, big time. And that's where so much of what we're learning, it's obviously up to the individual teacher to be culturally safe and culturally competent, but it is the broader school structure and what access they have that really supports this as well. Big time. Anyone else? Thank you. Beautiful. Maybe we'll move on. This one's a really quick class, actually. There's a bit of space for discussion, but definitely a quicker one. I'll pull up this. Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership. I imagine most of you have come across this before. Again, 2022, so at the pace in which kind of Indigenous affairs and how we're seeing that space within the broader context of politics, it changes so quickly. So again, even looking at this 22 seems a little bit almost outdated now, with that change. But this is a really cool, pretty short document too. And it's, exactly everything that we've spoken about, tailored for teachers, looking at what we're moving towards in schools, how you can achieve that as a teacher, how you can achieve that as someone more broadly in the school community as well. And as we've said, it comes so much from your own self-reflection as a teacher and self-knowledge of how you're interacting with certain subjects, how your awareness is of those things. So this is something, again, Maddie's put this in the last couple of tutorials that modules that I've done for this class. It's a really cool thing. So it's you can sign up to it, and it's basically a cultural competency training, particularly for teachers. I'll pop the link into the chat as well. I know that it's gone up on Blackboard too, but again, it's really important at showing you where you're at, assessing where you're at, and then how you can move forward with your cultural knowledge, how you can move forward in your teaching practice to show that you're doing, all of these things. So this is what it looks like. I'll I'll put that in a chat. But yeah, it's got that cultural competency training. So highly, highly recommend that you do that. Self-paced, all online. Just click through. You know, there's some really cool reading material in that too. So that's something to definitely engage with if you're really interested in ongoing learning after our last class together today. I guess not off topic, but has anyone done any cultural training? You know, obviously the schools might do things where you've got a training seminar for a day in this space. Has anyone, you know, come from corporate life where they put you through part of their reconciliation action plan is to go and do cultural competency training? Does anyone have experience doing something like that, or this might be the first time that you're engaging with this?
I just started a new job and they have a module on it and it's all online. So it was interesting.
Beautiful. I'll pop in the chat some of the ones that I've had to do for some of the ones I've had to do for my own work are really cool as well. So the first one I did was Black Card. I know they have online components as well, but it is a mainly face-to-face thing, and you can go for like a day or whatever, and do some cultural competency training. That one's really cool. And then the IATSIS core training, that's a national level one, which I found really cool because you're learning so much about each different country, and the experiences of, you know, East Australia is completely different to Western Australia in kind of what's taken place. And so, yeah, if that's something that interests you, there's definitely some more that you can learn on. But yeah, anyone else had experience with that? Mute Laura. All right, we are flying through this one a little bit. Okay, moving into another space. So again, it's kind of, this class is a bit more of that culmination of all of the different things that we've looked at, all the things that we've gone through in the last couple of weeks together. But looking at how teachers can ensure that you're affirming Indigenous identities in your students. So a huge part of this is obviously the strengths-based approach and high expectation relationships and teaching. So if you're speaking and addressing people from a place of deficit, obviously that's not a great thing to be doing. You would all know this better than me. It's better, you know, this is a universal idea. It's not directed only at Indigenous students. I know with a lot of neuro spicy students, it's really how do we address from a strengths-based approach as well, to making sure that we're not discrediting people and their skill sets. But I'll just do that first paragraph. So there's a number of ways teachers can contribute to identity affirmation of Indigenous students. They can be practical in unpacking in more depth in other chapters in the book, in it later. But we need to reinforce here that identity must always be inherently strength-based endeavor. Again, prefacing on that, it's so important to let people identify rather than pushing your own understanding or stereotyping of their identity. It's up to that person to self-identify and us to accept that. Furthermore, some suggestion approach have been evidence emphasized as important in Indigenous education for many years, and our aim is to highlight the importance of these in contributing to that strength-based identity affirming practice. So that's a really big one that I'm sure you've all come across before, preaching to the converted. Some ways in which you can do that. So a big part, as we've looked in the last couple of weeks, is building relationships and collaborating with the local community. There are many resources available for teachers who want to know how to do this effectively. And here is a summary of some of the ways to develop those relationships. So again, this is what we've covered, but doing some research before you meet with the community, knowing the lands that you're on, knowing who's who, what the dynamics might be, if there's a pre-existing relationship between anyone within the school and community. Connect with Indigenous staff at the school, introduce yourself and ask for advice as well as offering support. Understand the local protocols for each community and find out as much as you can about community. Meet people in the community. Don't expect community to always come to the school. That's a really big one as well. We're asking people to engage. Often it can be oh, what can you do for me? Go out and meet those people where they're comfortable rather than always having to come to you within the school out of their context. How can we engage with community within places that is more convenient for them, that's more structured and more, beneficial or supportive of that engagement with them. If there are community events, attendance, if you invite local people into your work, make sure there are funds to pay for them and their expertise as well. After the last, I guess this is more kind of what we did 2 weeks ago. But did anyone have any thoughts on this, or it left you with anything to think about once we'd spoken about that? Anything very broadly on this topic? Does anyone have pre-existing relationships with the communities in the areas they live in?
No, but at my school we do have one Indigenous teacher in the science department with us, which I think is pretty cool because we like essentially the science department will go to them and ask a lot of questions.
That's awesome. Yeah. Having that relationship, having that person, be in. I think it's also nice when it's not just like, oh, there's the AEO, like you've got Indigenous teachers around the school as well that don't have to be pigeonholed into that one role so much.
Yeah, you're not like a bolt-on to the teaching.
No one else? Beautiful. Pop it in the chat. I'll move on. Otherwise, as I said, really cool that we've got some resources from this one. Oh, there we go. Okay, so again, this is created and just has some really cool different resources to be looking at, different ways. It's more broad than teaching alone. I think it's coming from healthcare space, but it's in terms of, making sure that you're best supporting yourself to understand this space too. What I'll do is I'll give you till 6:35. Have a play around on this site, have a look at the different things, and then we'll come back and discuss if there was anything useful that you found in there. How'd you go? Did you ever play around on this site? Beautiful. Find anything useful for teaching? I think as well, useful to support your students too.
Yeah,
I'll
I
be
think it's
teaching.
a good one if you've got students that come to you and just like say, hey, like I'm having whatever they want to disclose. Like obviously if there's full on disclosure of something that like you need to report things, but if they're coming to you for advice and it's a really good platform to become aware of and be like, all right, culturally,
Yeah.
how is it appropriate to answer these students? Where can I guide them for more information?
Think high school too, because like something, especially in healthcare, like the term deadly, to Indigenous Australians is like deadly, like you're cool, it's great, deadly, or that's deadly. And I know there was a big conversation in healthcare because they kept using the word deadly. Something was deadly, it was going to kill you because it's smoking's deadly, you know. So there's a lot of if you can have kind of culturally aware terminologies, you can send students to a place that is going to have that awareness. Chandina?
It's a really good resource for me because I will be doing PDHPE and that's the content in there is excellent for it, like even with e-safety and everything. So, yeah.
That's great. Very pleased it can be helpful. Yeah, you're right. I think more broadly, this is really important. Being around young people all the time, it's a place you can direct young people and educate yourself as well. There's an app developed by Indigenous young people from my local area. Oh, cool. It's awesome. I'll have a look around that one too. Again, so this is a bit of a 6-minute video. Watch this on your own and then we'll come back and have a conversation on it. It is 6 minutes. Watch the whole 6 minutes and then I'll see you. Oh, I still didn't add it. There it is. I'll see you for a bit of discussion on this shortly. Sound good? Awesome. Finished watching the video. It was a long one. Any thoughts to share on it?
Yeah, I really liked the point it raised about like if you don't try, then like how if you care about the earth and you care about the planet, like how are we going to shift anything if we can't actually, even albeit clunkily in the beginning, start to make those connections for people of how to integrate with nature and to see it as an integral part of us rather than as this separate thing that we just walk around on and in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. Jane?
I really loved hearing that the guy that said he would rather people have a go and get it wrong than not even try at all. As long as you're having a go with like the attitude of, okay, I'll learn from it, then it's okay to have a go. That like gave me like a little bit of confidence. I can be one of those that gets overthinks everything and gets so worried that I'm gonna offend or upset that I end up doing nothing. So that was really
Yeah. And I think something in this space, there is so much of that fear. Like it's, afraid to say the wrong thing, afraid to do the wrong thing, which we've all talked about in the last couple of weeks. And it's stifled people, it's stopped people from moving forward. And it's a really big issue in this whole dialogue. It doesn't just have to be in schools, it's across the board, it's organizations, it's in the community in general. And I think that's a really big thing to understand, that if we do nothing, nothing changes. So it's part of educating yourself so you do feel more comfortable to, ask questions and take a step forward. But it's definitely almost like another beast in this whole big I guess change that we have to address. It's how do we address people that want to do change, stop feeling scared and intimidated by that space. And it's definitely, I think, something that needs to be worked on. I see it all the time. I feel it all the time. It's definitely something that needs to kind of change. But yeah, it's beautiful art too that he's making. Any other ideas? They were great points.
I was just thinking, I guess that's where the beauty of relationship comes in. If you've spent time building authentic relationships and you get something wrong, those conversations are a lot easier to have than if it's just someone walking into a room and saying, you did that wrong.
Of course, yeah. And having, you're right, that ability to feel comfortable asking those what you would think are silly questions. And this is just completely my personal opinion. But I've noticed it a lot in the professional space, the kind of discourse around settler as an identifier, as non-Indigenous people being settlers and then Indigenous community. And I think that terminology in itself it's almost created like a guilt complex rather than a reconciliation moment. And that's something I see, people identifying as settlers as if it's like almost a fault, where it was such a long time ago. It's not our fault, but it's our responsibility to make that change. And I've seen that a lot of people kind of having that fear because they're coming from a place of guilt of, look what my ancestor did, look at what what happened, which I completely appreciate, but I think it's led to people feeling uncertain and feeling guilty rather than coming from a place of active reconciliation than anything. So that's just my personal thing, but it's come up recently in my world, and I'm like, I understand the premise, but I don't know what impact that's having and how that's creating and changing this space.
I think as well, like, if you look at the history, there was a time when no one even understood what had happened. Like it was so covered over. So there was a need for that language at one point, probably. And now we're kind of like into the next stage of reconciliation, where it's like, okay, we're beginning to understand how do we like reconcile this.
Big time. And it's taking that it's so much more about action than kind of theory. It's really important to understand what's happened and why we can understand people and their perspectives better, but it's about action. How do we know that and now move forward from it? Awesome. Anyone else? No one else. All good. Again, this is a really cool other one. There's so much in this. Oh, how do I get away from that? So there's 46 different curriculum design unit classes here. Really, really cool across the board as well. As you can see, it's a really well laid out website. It tells you who you're looking for, what subject area you're looking at. And I know a lot of people have questioned and asked, what about science? It's really hard. What about this subject? So what we'll do, again, it's a little bit shorter this class. I'll leave you with this. We'll have a break. We'll come back let's come back on the hour. So New South Wales will come back at 7 p.m. But during the break, have a look around this site, find the ones that are interesting and particular to you, and then go and have a little bite to eat. And then at 7, we'll come back and discuss what you might have found. But again, pin this one. It's a really beautiful website. If you want to have a play around, as you know from the first assessment that you did, have a look at who created it, why you should trust this website, who are some of the authors, have they done other stuff? But again, definitely dive into this a little bit more, and we'll come back at 7 and discuss whether you found anything. Awesome. Are we back on board? Joan, I can see. Beautiful. Nice to see you, Helen. I feel like your background, Helen, is Australia Post did like a thing where you could send cards during COVID. Is that what the background is? Yes. It's very sweet. My nan was using them. Awesome. How did you go? Was that a helpful website for resources? So?
I like that it gave like lots of background information about the topic. Not it didn't just like give you a resource video. It gave like the teacher background knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thumbs up. Cora, so.
Yeah, it's generally like looking through them, they're mostly geared towards the lower age categories, which is fine. And there needs to be ones that do that, but it's generally like most of them are primary.
And again, that's been a theme. I think Kirsty said it early on. There's so much more out there on how to integrate this within classroom in the younger years. It's really the year 12 science you got to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. Like even just like when I like did a filter into it and had a look through, like if I look into science, it'll be like there's 9 results. There's one for year 10, year 9, primary, primary, year 8, primary,
Mm, or
primary.
younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was definitely like I did have a few people question like why did you pick science? But I was like, I'm actually going to use science because it's my key learning area. Like I know I could have made it easier on myself and picked an easier key learning area. But I think the point was to actually challenge yourself and dig your heels in and be like,
In
nah, I'm gonna
practice.
and it was really eye-opening as to what is out there, which was good, and what isn't there in terms of like, it's actually quite a struggle when I like go past like food webs and ecology and groundwater and that's pretty easy. But then when you get into like your physics side of it and your chemistry side of it, the quality and number of resources aren't quite there yet.
Yeah, big time. And hopefully in your time as a teacher, that will build and build. But yeah, there's obviously lots more to be done in this space. Helen, I can see. Do you want to say something? You're just on mute there.
Sorry, I
There you
was no, I signed up and I searched the whole thing, and there's sections there, which area you're teaching. I went into the visual arts, and there was a stacks for when you select to year 7 and 10. There's a lot of resources, so I was happy with that site.
Good. That's great to
Very
hear that.
useful. Yeah, very useful and very good videos to show in the classroom to students. Videos from museums and things like that. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah,
Oh, that's great.
good resource. Yeah.
Great. Very positive. Anyone else? You're all in very
Yeah.
different subject areas.
Also, I
You
was
are?
looking at that. Yeah, I was looking at digital technology, and the information there was very good for me. And then I think it's when you look at the cross curriculum priorities, they are very good tools to work with. So complements what is required on the cross curriculum priorities. So it's a good blend. Yeah.
Good. And please, you can take away some things from that. Awesome. All right. Well, again, like I said, this is kind of a quicker one. I'll give some space for some self-reflection to go through, but we'll just go through, I guess, more in summation, some of the tips from Korea curriculum. Again, really good resource to keep tabs on as well, in that connection with community, you know, making sure we're not feeling scared, we're feeling like we've got the right resources to go forward in this space. So there's I think it's 8 different things on this one. And again, number 1 is creating kind of the stakeholder list. Who's who in the area. I know last week, maybe it was the week before, we had some time to look at the local area, look at people. So again, the land council is a huge one to be involved in that. Obviously, within the school ecosystem itself, is there exec you can be talking to? Are there teachers, AEO, parents that you already know of? So again, really knowing where you can get support, and where you can build those relationships locally. We said that AECG is a really great place to do so as well. Education consulting groups, whether they be online or face-to-face. As you've probably figured, there's so much online development in this area. You know, there are teachers all across Australia going through the exact same thing. I think there's even 300 of you in this course right now anyway, so there's huge numbers of people having the exact same thoughts that you are. So there's people out there, there's resources online everywhere. It's just making sure you're connecting with that. Heaps of podcasts. So again, looking at who that is locally and in the online world too, in where you can make sure that you're connecting and making those relationships. The second, and we've looked at this too, be clear on why and when you're working with community. So having that, I guess, emotional intelligence, understanding. It's not about going in with an agenda. It's going in with an open mind, a rapport building moment, rather than just wanting someone to do something with you. So again, Korea curriculum is saying we recommend when seeking to include traditional aspects of culture in your school program, such as dreaming, that educators should be seeking consultation too. Additionally, Sarah, a local community sourcing, I believe that would say, a local community cultural protocol document can offer support and clarity. So again, if there are things that you want to do, probably less so in the classroom setting, but more in like a broad school setting. If there are things that you want to do, you're like, got this great idea for NAIDOC, I've got this great idea to do something, engaging with the community and the AEO to make sure what you're doing is appropriate, making sure what you're doing has the right people involved as well. Excuse me. Next big one is a lot of people think that elders and community will come in and do a welcome for free, or that it's quite low cost. It's not low cost. There's only very particular people that have, I guess, the rights or the status to do so within their community. So expecting that there is a budget needed for this. People aren't just going to do welcomes, come into your community or school event, and not expect payment. It's their jobs as well. It's kind of, you know, depending even where that money go, it might be personal, it might go to the land council, but that's a really big one. I've had, I was asked to get an elder for an event. I did it, got her on board, sent the invoice to my boss, and they were like, oh wow, didn't imagine this was part of our budget. So again, it's really ensuring that you're putting something like that and showing the value for that person too. Fourth, we've really discussed this as well throughout, but it's not transactional. It's not agenda-based. It's rapport building. It's having genuine relationships open rather than going with like that business approach mindset. So that's a really big one as well. Fifth is don't expect community to come to you. A great place to start building relationships is out in community during those significant events too. So it's how can you make sure that you're meeting community where they're at, making sure that it's convenient for them rather than having them come to you and you kind of say, this is what we want, this is how we want you to engage. So it's having that understanding of how community works as well. Being aware of any local communication protocols such as silence, body language, and eye contact. Can you share the slide? I think these will all go up on Blackboard. They definitely should. They'll be up there. I think Mandy puts them up after the last class on Wednesday because I don't have access to do that. But yes, being aware of local protocol. So we've discussed eye contact is a thing.
Sorry, Jade, I
Often,
think Helen might have meant we can't see the slides, your
oh
slides
my
on
God, I'm
screen right
so
now.
sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, this is what it looks like. This is what I've been talking about. Thank you, Helen. Okay, this is what I just read out, the first one. This is what I've read out next. That eye contact, some students mightn't give eye contact. It's a sign of respect. Next one. Thank you for that. Number 7, in written communication, always use capital A and I when talking about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. Some communities have, this would be more place-based as well. Communities have different ways of communication. I always capitalize words like, and you'll see it capitalize, country, obviously the name of the country as well. I'll capitalize mob, I'll capitalize community as well. So again, that's something that always comes up with a wiggly line under it on a document, because it's obviously an English understanding of capitalization. But yeah, those kind of important terms I capitalize as well. That's not across the board, but it's quite common to see that. It's just placing importance on something in, I guess, punctuation. The next is number 8. So we find best relationships and outcomes are achieved when they take place in person rather than online and emailing. Very aware of that. It can be hard to kind of find those times to meet with people, but definitely the way to have that engagement. And often, you know, community members are so stretched. It's how can you meet them where they're at, as I said, what's most convenient for them. Number 9, planning incursions and events where you would like an Aboriginal person present for facilitating experiences as well. Be mindful during the times of celebration and NAIDOC week, a lot of community have family obligations and are very busy. What was I going to say on that? I think something, I'm not sure if you've heard of the colonial load. We haven't gone into it too much in this class. Aboriginal person to explain themselves, to constantly be doing all of these things. You can imagine if there's a handful of key community members, they're going to be asked to be at every NAIDOC event, do every smoking ceremony, do every welcome. So it's again having that awareness that community is going to be very stretched, and can you make sure that you're supportive, again, in your relationship and your tone, you're not demanding, because there are going to be so many obligations on people at certain times of the year too. Last one, I think, acknowledge the inherent mistrust that a lot of Aboriginal people have towards mainstream institution and organisations. This is off the back of definitely what we've talked about in those first and second modules. It will take time to build relationships and trust, and being very sensitive around the wording that you're using, being very sensitive around kind of those things that we've talked about, tone, reading the room when things are appropriate as well. Awesome. Any questions on any of those? Thank you, Helen. That was just me talking, which wouldn't have been easy to follow. But does anyone have any questions or comments? Great. This is really cool. So Maddie's put together all of the things that we've learned from these modules. This is something kind of a toolkit for you that you can take away with you, refer back to constantly. 4 years from now, you're put in a class and you're like, oh, I completely forgot a lot of this stuff. Where can I go to? So Maddie's put together a toolkit for you and a self-reflection guide. So I think it'd be useful to do this in the class. I'll give you some time to do this soon. But it's kind of a bit of a summation of those really great websites that we've been through in the last 6 weeks, different places. This is the one that we looked at, 2 of these today. Deadly Science, hopefully, Cora, there's some stuff in there for you. But yeah, just some of the different resources that we've come across. And then what I thought we would do today is go through these questions personally. So I'll give you some time, and it's a little bit of a reflection. Practical questions, that first one, what nation are you on? Where are you from? And then more so developing your own teaching after you've learned all this for 6 weeks, you've put in all this effort. What does that look like in your teaching too? And some different goals as well. So I'll leave this slide up here, and I'll give you maybe 10 minutes to just answer this yourself, dive into it, and then we'll kind of, I always really like to end this unit in a bit of a reflection. You've all probably had a really big learning curve of ways you can engage in different, spaces in this. So I'll give you 10 minutes to reflect and answer these questions yourself. It's on the next slide, so I won't go to it as well. But at the end of that, if you have 2 or 3 goals that you want to write down as well in this area after learning, and then we'll come back and share. But I'll leave this up. You can all see this on the slide, and I'll give you 10 minutes to answer these. And the black cockatoos have just come into my backyard. It's so cute.
Sorry,
Right.
Jade. It's very
Yeah.
tiny, the screen. I can't see it.
I might I'll put the questions on the chat as well, so you can answer them.
because that hasn't been uploaded, has it? The tutorial slides
Yeah.
for week 6.
How do we all go? You in the background, typing and writing away favouritely. Awesome. Back on board. I'm watching a poor black cockatoo get chased by a currawong. It's terrible. Mm. How was this exercise? Good. Awesome. Does anyone want to share maybe one or two things that they answered from this? Read out one of their responses. Also in the chat too. I know it's the same people chatting all the time.
I thought of the Freedom School that's up here at COFS. If I'm planning on teaching here while I'm a pre-service teacher and I'm a TA, is building that relationship with them to see how they embed it within the learning environment that those kids are actually in. So if I can support them, I'm also learning from them as well and through them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's seeing all of what we've talked about in practice. Like that's, yeah, it's such a great thing that we've got in Coffs Harbour that so many places don't have. Yeah, so if you can build that relationship, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It actually set me on track. Um, and in sequence of the main important points of practicing inclusivity in the classroom. And I realized the importance of teaching our students, the protocols and ethics when we invite an elder or some community member into the classroom. They also need to learn how to talk to them, how to approach to them on the things that they would be discussing about, if it's a visual arts or a work of art. I think that's equally important to our attitudes towards the communicating, but teaching them how to communicate with their local community elders. So, yeah, that's what I realized in doing this exercise, and it just brainstormed my mind.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like I have a friend, his kids, he's got autism, his kid, and he's learning, and his family psychologist said your kid needs to watch mum and dad regulate. It's not, oh, dad's a bit stressed, goes
Yeah.
away, feels calm, comes back. It's the same thing. You need
Mm,
to show your students what the process has been for that Aboriginal artist to be in your classroom and how you've gone
yeah,
about that. You know, that's a really
yeah,
important thing, even though they're
yeah.
not directly involved in that relationship building, explaining how you
Mm,
got to that point. That's awesome.
yeah. Yeah, it's very important for student self-regulation and behavior too. Important.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to ask you, what happens, like I've been trying to research it, when there is an artist in resident or in your local community that also was an elder, when they decease, when they die, um, what happens with all that lessons and things and artwork that was in the curriculum and the lessons and everything? I know that there was a time period, like a year or something, that you're not allowed to um show these works and discuss the actual name of the elder, like the old man or something like that. I think I've researched. What happens with that after a while?
Um, It's very different in each place again, and how kind of what protocol means. From my understanding, yeah, so it's, quite common knowledge not to say someone's name when they've passed, and I believe that is so you're not calling their spirit back, their spirit's left, so it's to let them peacefully move on. So a lot of places, especially if they're a high profile Indigenous artist, the family becomes the one that takes the possession and then manages what happens with that. So that's a definitely thing that you've got to go through family. I had that situation with my masters. Someone had moved on and I needed to work with the family. So often the family kind of manage that. If not, it goes to land councils or trust, depending on kind of how who the profile is, how big they are, but often it will become kind of it's managed by an Indigenous art organization or things like that. There's some really cool ones. Marta Millie, I think they're based in the Pilbara in WA, but they have thousands of Indigenous artists and they do training and they have exhibitions and things. They have a trust as well that art goes back to as well. And from that, if profits of sales or something happen, that might then go into the trust or go into the family. But it's, from my understanding, a lot of the time it's passed on to family, or if they're high enough profile, to a particular trust.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
No, all good. Any other reflection that you'd like to share? Anyone?
I think I should actually go to the museums and things that are available here. Like we do have a Yugambeh Cultural Museum here on the Gold Coast at Beenleigh. We also have it's specifically set up for school excursions here on the Gold Coast in terms of Aboriginal teaching and connection to country. It's Jelarugul. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Jelarugul. And I think it's important to just start that process now. Like, don't wait until I'm trying to teach and then figuring out, oh, how do I connect into community now? Like, start the process now. Like, it can be clunky now while I'm not actually teaching, which I think is really cool. And like researching into those museums or cultural places, you can actually find out who's behind it and then what they do. So Calwin is actually the mob that run Jerugal, and then they have like community events through the year that you can attend, which is actually also a really good idea to actually go to rather than expecting them to come to you and your school and do all of the things.
That's awesome. And I think, like, I've seen it in my personal world too, going to museums or going to an event. If you've got kids, like, obviously, people are so time poor, but if you've got kids, that's a really cool weekend activity. And I've seen it with my parents in particular. Like, there was this incredible festival in Coffs Harbour called All One Under the Sun this weekend. And it was a multicultural thing. And I had to do something there. And my mum and dad, like, that's not normally their thing. Like, it's a weekend, and they came along, and my mum was raving about it, like learning and being in this space for 7 or 8 years. Mum will come along. We did a cultural tour up in Sealy Lookout. I got to do that for work, and mum came along with me. And it's like watching the learning of the people around you is a really beautiful thing as well. Like, you get to kind of evoke that too. So you're right, if you go into museums and galleries, and you're like, oh, it's a weekend, I've got the kids, take them along. Like, it's a really cool thing. It's not just for your professional development, it's for the rest of the world. If you're engaging in this space more broadly in your own lives, it's a really positive thing too. Thanks for sharing. Maybe one or two others, and then I'll move on to the next slide.
I think I just became really aware of how much I rush around all the time. So just like, and I fill silences. You might have noticed. I don't like silence. So learning to like just be comfortable with silence and slowing myself down if I really want genuine relationship.
That's awesome. Yeah. And again, like it's, good teaching in this space is good teaching in for all students. It's the same. It's self-reflection. It's learning your own way that we relate to people around us, relate to other cultures. So yeah, it's a really beautiful space to exist in and learn about. So that's a good reflection. I feel like my husband could use a bit more of that as I watch him literally run into our backyard before it gets too dark so he can do something else. Awesome. Anyone else? Great. I might move on. Thank you for sharing. We'll come to a bit of a broader self-reflection or reflection too. This is the next page. Again, print this up, keep it with you. It's just a bit of a checklist. Are you doing these things in your own life? Have you carried on this learning beyond our little 6-week module together? So what does that look like? Are you going to different events at the school? Are you aware of what's happening? Are you constantly reflecting on yourself? In terms of teaching, are you ensuring that you're bringing this into your teaching too? So how are you doing that? But yeah, a really cool thing. A couple of goals in here. Did anyone have, I know it wasn't a heap of time, did anyone put down a goal for this if you'd like to share?
Just finding out more about the local Indigenous cultures here and like different resources to be able to teach. I saw everything more as like just teaching Aboriginal culture, but the idea of tying it to local area is really good. And I think that like all the students can benefit from that, and even myself.
Absolutely, just learning. And, it's amazing to feel so connected to the place that you are. Like, this is a really important thing. So, yeah, learning more locally. That's awesome. Anyone else? If not, I'm going to, before we finish,
Can I ask a question? What
yeah,
time is it in Australia at the moment? Because I've mixed up with the time difference.
it's 7:45 in New South Wales.
Right, okay, thank you.
Um, I'll just show you these. So, um, I don't know how to say his name properly. I imagine some of you are a touch older than me. You would very much be familiar with David Gallipilli's acting. He was like in everything, passed away in 2021. But there's a documentary out at the moment, a documentary movie at the moment, and it's called The Journey Home. And I only watched it 2 weeks ago. I was going to talk about it last week and I was really excited and then I never showed up. But this is one of the most beautiful things that I've watched. It's so, so cool to get an insight. So essentially, he passed away in Adelaide, but he's a Yolngu land, which is Arnhem Land. And the whole documentary was about taking his body home back onto country so he could be buried. It was the wet season, so they had all those kind of complications to deal with in getting him home, and the rivers were swelling and flooding and community couldn't get there. But it's the first thing that I've ever seen in which the viewer is invited into what the ceremony looks like. So it was essentially 10 days of his funeral and what that was. And it was, each day was singing and dancing and ceremony, and his grandson got initiated as a man, so they saved it for the time that David passed, so then they could have kind of the old and the new beginnings coming together. But it was so incredible. Like, they were deep in Arnhem Land. There was one white person at his funeral, which I think was so incredible. Like, watching this man, they said that he was there's pictures of him with Led Zeppelin and there's pictures of him in Hollywood winning all these awards. But his funeral, when he passed away, he didn't have any of that. He was on red dirt when no one was wearing any shirts, no one had shoes on, and there was only his adopted brother, who I think was his manager, at this at his ceremony. So it was just completely incredible. Showed all of the ceremonial dress, showed all of the process. This is his son who kind of documented and talked through what they were doing. I should show you the images actually. But it really is this incredible, that's his grandson as he got initiated at the funeral. It was just this absolutely incredible insight into culture. It was completely untouched. So yeah, he was in the rabbit-proof fence, and just the impact that this man had. So that was something that really, really stuck with me, that I would really recommend if you can get your hands on that. I know it's in some, I saw it at the cinema, so I know it's in some cinemas still at the moment, but highly recommend. It's like one of the coolest things that I've seen for a very long time. The second is, I know some of you are kind of in that Byron Bay, Gold Coast area. So Craig Ruddy has since passed, unfortunately, but he won the Archibald Prize. He's actually a friend of my husband's, which has been really beautiful for us to learn. But he won the Archibald for painting David in 2004, I think it was. And since that, he's worked with Kathy Freeman. He's worked with so many Indigenous, high-profile Indigenous people. And so if you go to his website, there's often exhibitions. I know his surviving partner, Roberto, is doing a lot of work in Byron and the Gold Coast to kind of do scholarships in that Indigenous space as well. But there's often stuff on him in that Gold Coast, Byron area. So I would definitely keep my eyes peeled for this, because his work, again, is incredible. And I learned a lot from how Craig exists as a non-Indigenous person in an Indigenous space, and just how he communicates and represents. So I think that's a really beautiful thing if you're able to look into as well. Just my own little personal recommendations. But before we do a bit of a wrap up, does anyone have, I don't know, what's your thought process been from starting this 6 weeks ago now to here? Is there any kind of big light bulb moments that you've had, or anything to reflect on before we part ways?
It's just been a thoroughly enjoyable unit, honestly.
Good to hear.
Like, it's just, yeah, it really got you thinking deeper rather than just connecting to content to smash out an assignment, to, because sometimes you can find like pedagogies and approaches which are important, but you're not necessarily thinking about Vygotsky's zone of proximal development when you're like, hey, these two kids would work together because this one will help this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I just found, I really connected with this unit and I got very enthused. Thank you.
Good. Cool.
I agree with that. I think there was a really good balance between the assessments and then the unit content, where they fed into each other. And the assessments made you do a lot of research yourself and made you become really aware, but it left space for you to actually take the learning on board. Whereas sometimes you kind of end up picking between one or the other. And you have to go with the assessment because
Especially
the grade
in
is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this one. Loved it. It's been my favorite one so far, I think.
Good.
It's how you're going to fit all this reading in 500 words to answer a question. And you know something? A lot of reading I won't be using because I can't fit it in 500 words, but I think I would be taking the most important parts away from it, from this experience and writing about. So, but this acquired new knowledge is good for the future of teaching, in the classroom. that's what I've experienced, and it was good. That's what I acquired, and I'm
Great.
happy that I acquired it because I needed to acquire it, especially in the visual arts. So, you know, it helped me how to teach the Indigenous art in the classroom and all the protocols and things. So, yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And it does ask you to be a little bit more open. You know, it's not just content, it's not just gaining knowledge, it's
Oh,
self-reflection, which
yes,
can be really hard. So again,
certainly.
I'm
Yeah.
pleased that you were all open to it and willing to learn. Just as you were speaking, Helen, this is that Martu Mili. So they're huge. They like, you know, they own all the art that went on
Yeah.
the Opera House. So definitely checking out these guys. And in terms of cultural engagement, I know they've got
Really.
maybe two non-Indigenous staff members. A lot are Indigenous as well, but
Really.
they've got thousands of artists. And they often do touring artists as well. So it's something that you can engage with.
Mm.
But yeah, really, really beautiful. They have done a really incredible job of how they do this engagement.
Oh, it's lovely.
Oh, Cyril.
That's Matamili. Matamili.
Yeah, anyone else?
Again, we had quite a lot of materials in this unit. So much information, more than we can really assimilate within the 6 weeks. But we know because of practice, we have something to fall back to. And we know that we have become better, we have better understanding, in embedding indigenous information into our learning areas. So yeah, thankful. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, beautiful. I kept saying that it wouldn't be as long, but that was as long. I'll pop my email in there as well. Yeah, thank you. It's been really nice the last 6 weeks. You've all been very open to sharing. I haven't sat here and just talked to myself, so I've really appreciated that. And your input and your learning. I've put my email there if you've got any feedback for me and my teaching style and approach, anything like that. I'd love to hear it. As well, you're very welcome. I've been in this space for a while as a non-Indigenous person. I've, try and fail, but I've really want to make sure that people aren't feeling scared as non-Indigenous members to engage in this space. So if you've got the silly questions, if you've got things that you're afraid to do or ask, I'm very open for you to have my email and shoot that off because I've probably been there as well. So yeah, please feel free to email me. But otherwise, that's it. Very trusting in the future of education with you guys at the helm. And yeah, good luck with the rest of the term and assignment and lives. And yeah, it's been really nice to share the last couple of weeks with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you,
good.
Jane.
Thank you.
You've been wonderful.
Thanks, Helen. Safe travels home.
Oh, thank you. I know I was in Israel last week.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Very, very disturbing. But anyway, that's a long story. Yeah,
Holy moly. That's
I
different.
know.
Well, thanks for showing up.
I know, I know.
See you, everyone.
John,
Please.
Bye.
bye-bye.